Welcome to True Crimes. In this series, we look into the life and the crimes of some of history's worst criminals, as the title may imply. However, before we start this video, this will involve descriptions of murder, abuse, and extreme violence. It's not appropriate for children under the age of 13. If you feel that you may be offended, then why not watch one of my alternative videos, perhaps from the Versus series. Series 2 has just been released, with episode 1 being Messi versus Ronaldo, so go check that out. If you don't feel you'll be offended, go check that out after this video. Also, this story is set in modern day Hungary, so I apologise for any of my translations. Languages are not my thing. This story is also set in the late 15th and early 16th century, so it's hard to get real facts, but I've tried to get as close to what did or may have happened. Let's begin. Introduction. To say life in the past was bad is an understatement. If you were in the lower classes, it was the worst. There wasn't even protection from the laws. As a noble, you had the right to kill any peasant for any reason. Don't mess with other nobles, basically do what you want. Don't push it too much, as long as they paid their taxes, accepted your laws, and never crossed the line. This, though, is the story of Elizabeth Bathory, the Hungarian Countess whose alleged brutality made her aggression legendary. Times, history, and brutality. War against the Ottomans. Noblemen had no laws stopping them attacking servants or peasants. Laws were totally in the favour of nobles. Bathony was so incredibly rich, even other royals owed them money. Early life, legend and myth. It was believed Bram Stoker took the inspiration for his legendary vampire, Count Dracula, from this noblewoman. Born in August 1560 in Nirobor, Hungary, sorry about the pronunciation there, to become a powerful noblewoman whose relations included the King of Poland, and the nephew was a Prince of Transylvania. Her mother and father were both first cousins, which would explain some of the problems and some of the fits that she had. It was believed, although this was in times before medicine could really tell, but it was believed that she suffered from epilepsy and often would have severe fits. One of the biggest problems that these alleged crimes alleged, as there were no reliable records of them, although as most were against peasants due to the laws of the land, no crimes were committed. The records were also recorded in ancient Hungarian, with bits added later, so it's hard to get a true story of what happened, but this is what is believed to have happened, so let's continue. Due to the times, Elizabeth at a very young age got to experience lots of pain and lots of suffering, with her parents causing a lot of pain and a lot of suffering to a lot of servants. She apparently found it very joyful to see a peasant man sewn into the stomach of a horse, where he would later die. Truly is a great thing to show your kids that, really, isn't it? Imagine nowadays, oh, come and watch me put this man into a horse and we will sew him in there until he dies. Yeah, that'd be a laugh. Elizabeth's husband apparently taught her how to inflict more pain to extend the suffering of her victims. One thing she would do was to bind victims and place paper between her toes. When they looked like they're going to pass out, she would light the paper to inflict more pain. Nice. Don't get bored now. I'm not finished yet, peasant girl. Myth also says that she would bathe in the blood of virgins to help with the elixir of life. It is unlikely that this first reported 100 years after her death, making it seem more gruesome, but also less likely to have actually happened. Marriage, war, and running the estate. Married at the age of 15, it was believed she gave birth to a child before marriage to another man. It is believed that her husband would find the man, castrate the man, torture the man, and kill the man. Nice. Apologies here again for translation. She first married Count Fenrik Nasady. 10 years later, they had their first of 5 children. 2 died during infancy. Fervency would often go off fight against the Ottoman Turks. This would leave Elizabeth to run the estate. She never knew how, so this caused chaos. Her temper was short. It was the servant girls who often felt her wrath. No remorse was ever shown. It was believed hundreds were tortured, then killed. Some reckon she was the worst serial killer ever. As the body count started to rack up, it is believed many shallow graves were dug in the castle grounds. As time went by, this started to happen in her carriage as well. Cruelty became common. Women from outside her castle would hand her girls. It seemed that they would try to get on her good side by handing her more victims, therefore protecting themselves and their families. Death of her husband. In 1604, Nasady was killed. Most of their marriage, they were apart, but now Elizabeth took control of her husband's extensive estate. Her accomplice. Elizabeth had 4 servants help her get victims. Some would help with the tortures or get victims, going to the surrounding villages to look for peasant girls. The girls of the village were hidden. Peasants would offer girls to protect their own. The accomplice would all be tortured, then put to death after her trial. These will be talked about later in the story. Types of murders and where. Her victims were mainly peasant girls, so the law would not protect them. Many types of murders were recorded in winter. She may get the girls to undress, then throw cold water over them, make them stand outside in the snow to freeze to death. In the summer, she may cover them in honey, place them outside so the insects would attack them. A cruel, slow death. Mainly though, Elizabeth preferred to be more hands-on, inflicting torture, including burning, stabbing, whipping, sodomizing, and other cruel, vile ways to inflict pain and death. It's believed hundreds may have died in these awful attacks. Killing the wrong people. As she got older, lesser nobles would send their daughters to stay with Bathony in her castle. They were meant to learn the skills needed to craft the minor noble hierarchy. Elizabeth had other plans. She carried on her murderous acts, but now, not only on peasants, but on these minor nobles. By attacking the minor nobles, a bit better type of blood, she thought it would help with her soul and make her more important. This, however, was her undoing. See, the peasants had no protection, but these are nobles. These have laws that protect them. 1 or 2 may die, but the body count racked up. If Elizabeth had only slayed the peasants, nobody of power would have ever really cared. How she was stopped. On December the 29th, 1610, Count Grigory Ferzos of the oversaw juridical matters as the Lord Palatine of Hungary. He arrived at Bathony's castle, Countess, to investigate the countless alleged crimes against women of noble birth. Any mistreatment of servants was not a concern to the authorities. He reportedly surprised Bathony in the middle of tormenting a victim and in response immediately imprisoned her in her home. Her high status meant she would not be jailed as a common criminal. Who were found guilty? 4 of her servants, they were also arrested, 1 man and 4 women. They were arrested, questioned, then subject to torture. Unlike Elizabeth's vicious torture, which was merciless, this torture was done by the local executioner. There were 3 levels of torture. This macabre way of torturing really was quite cruel, but quite cunning in the same way. The first level is to show the victims the torture devices. This would cause most to squeal like a baby, as if to say, "You don't play ball. This is what you're gonna get." The second level is to use them against them, inflicting pain on them, which would cause most to say whatever the executioner wanted. However, the third level would be used the devices to the maximum power. This would normally kill. All 4 of the servants were found guilty and sentenced to death. End of reign. However, as a noblewoman, Elizabeth never stood trial, but was banished to live out her remaining days in a tower in her castle. 4 years later, she died. It is thought that she hated being locked in the tower, becoming lonely. It's hard to feel sorry for her though, stealing the lives of many servants in agonizing torture before their deaths. However though, there are claims that it's all false. It was all lies to destroy her family's name. Who knows? It's impossible to ever truly know. Most of the facts were written in ancient Hungarian. They were also added to many years after the actual events were supposed to have happened, so it's hard to really tell if they did at all happen. But there you are. There is the story of Elizabeth Bathory. So I'm not going to ask whether you enjoyed that tale, because it was a bit gruesome at times. But I hope that you found it interesting. If you did, please hit the like button, share, subscribe, and thanks for watching. And don't forget to check out my other videos on my website, including episode 1, which was about Jeffrey Dahmer. Anyway, thanks for watching. See ya, pals.